And I want to put that question to Kiran Walia from the Congress. Is it possible, Dr. Walia, for a moment, if we were to concede that maybe there is this gentleman, Paul Ogner, in the US who did all of this without Somnath Bharti's permission, that he set Somnath Bharti up? I mean, he has no answer for why he didn't sue Mr. Ogner, but is it possible that someone could have done it? Because in law, the liability is still yours. Is that not correct, Prashant? That's the law. Okay, so now, if it's established that the liability is still that of Somnath Bharti, but is it possible that someone took him for a ride? Are you prepared to concede that?
Rahul,
yes.
I think that's a very pertinent point that you raised. Even a layperson knows if his signatures are forged, you make a case out of a 420 case or under the Indian Penal Code and you report to the police. What to talk of such big company that's handling all this and the kind of work that is engaged in? Somnath Bharti, I think, on the face of it, prima facie, is pretending to be blissfully ignorant about how his name is being used, what's happening, and ignorance is not excused in the eyes of law. So I think that he'll have to face what the legal consequences of this will be. But for credibility of the Aam Aadmi Party, it must be heartbreaking for all those who supported it for bringing and cleansing politicians' way of functioning in public domain. Must be really, really heartbroken for the way things are happening, and the earlier they institute an inquiry, the better for them and better for all of us. It's really required to do. After all, what is done Lokpal Bill planning to do is to make people accountable at the highest level, including the Chief Minister. But when it comes to these issues, they gloss over it. So you're not really interested in issues immediately at hand, but you talk big, big things about this full statehood and so on and bringing a thing. I mean, I think that is absolutely total pretense.
Conrad Longmore, what do we know about this Paul Ogner character? We've been researching ourselves very hard, digging deep, trying to find out more. He seems a very shady, very mysterious character. What do you know through your independent investigations about this so-called associate who misused Somnath Bharti's identity?
He is a very mysterious character. There's barely enough evidence to prove that he exists, apart from some residential records for when he was in California, some court records when he was divorced from his wife, and some filings that were made in the US about this company called EdgeTech Services, or now Inova Technology, that he partly owns. And that is all I've ever been able to find out about him. He's a very mysterious person. And I do suspect that he took a very large amount of the money that the top sites spam or scam, if you like to call it, made, and he used it himself for his own purposes to take over this other company. So I certainly don't think that Mr. Bharti is sitting on millions of US dollars, but I would be surprised if he hadn't received some sort of compensation for the work that he was doing. And we know from the top site's own figures, this was millions and millions of dollars that were being involved, and even a small amount of that could be a significant sum.
Sure. We don't know what the financials are. I promise you, our reporters are digging and digging very deep to try and see if we can establish whether these companies were sold or not. But that's really where the law enforcement agencies also need to come in. What do you know, Prashanto, about this gentleman, Paul Ogner? Who is this associate? Where is he now?
You know, it's
He's in the Bahamas, Ashish, that's what you were telling me?
Yes, yeah.
What's he doing in the Bahamas? Does he still run shady operations, or he's having a good time there? With all the money that he's made, we don't know. On a more serious note, we don't know where he is.
We don't know where he is. But Rahul, more importantly, one has to realize that his address is there. His name appears in the Who Is search. The websites have been booked from the same address, that is C28 Malviya Nagar. The companies are registered in Iowa, which is a state in United States. It cannot be a mere coincidence that your company, that is Medgen Solutions, has C28 as the address during the same time. The same address is also for the US companies, the 5 companies that we have. All 5 companies have got the same address, whether it is Top Sites LLC, My Directory LLC, Media LLC. Why he's created so many companies, it is beyond understanding. If all these things exist together, and still he denies it, that he's got nothing to do with it, it is almost impossible to believe
Who is Paul Ogner? What do you know about him, Prashant?
You know, very little. Like Conrad was saying, he seems extremely mysterious. He barely seems to exist, or he's very, very good at not leaving his digital footprints, and so there is that remote possibility.
That's not something Somnath Bharti is very good at.
No,
he's got his digital footprints all over this. He even Kamal Mitra Chinoy tried to delete all these web caches, not understanding that there are people like Conrad Longmore, people like Prashanto who can dig that out. In 2011, there was a massive cleanup job where they tried very hard to get rid of all this information.
And I'll give you one more information. Topsites.us, the owner has changed today morning.
This morning?
This morning.
Who was the owner before that?
The owner, I'll get you the details. I have that with me. I just received that mail. The owner has been changed today itself in the morning.
This is it's a hatchet job, very poorly done. And what Somnath Bharti seems to forget is that on the internet, you leave your trail behind. You can't, just push it away.
Similarly, this all web hunt, which was another site similar to the top sites thing, was suddenly pulled off when there was a media report a few days ago, and suddenly it was taken off, but it is there in the cache.